this meeting to order. Ask that you rise, please, for the invocation, and remain standing for the pledge to the flag. Father, we ask for your wisdom and your guidance in all things that we consider this evening, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. First item, consideration of a resolution to approve the agenda. I have two requests of the board. Number one, under old business. We had previously tabled that item. I asked that we simply remove that, and it will be brought back when everything is prepared properly. The other item I would ask the board's consideration is to add under new business, item number 14, which is a proclamation by victim witness. This is a standard thing that we do each year. I don't think there would be a problem with adding it because it's really not going to take any public input.
Which under old business?
Item number one, funding for the hospital authority.
Mr. Chairman, also on item 13 of new business, and I mentioned that yesterday about the driveways. It's got concerns over replacing their concrete driveways with asphalt. That's backwards. It should be replacing.
That's actually, the agenda would be right, Rick.
Yeah.
That would be actually.
The agenda would be correct. We'll make that correction at that time.
But the agenda itself is.
Well, yeah, but that was anyway. All right.
No other changes or additions or subtractions. I ask the board's approval of that.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda with adding item of new business number 14, the proclamation by victim witness, and by the additional change of removing item number 1 under old business until that paperwork is prepared.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve with those changes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. All right, next item, consideration to approve the minutes of the September 16, 2014 commission meeting. Any changes or corrections? Entertain a motion.
Chairman, since I was absent from that meeting, I'll abstain from voting on this.
Let the record show.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 16th. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Approved as written. All right, it should be noted that public comment should be limited to the agenda items only, please. And that documents from this meeting are located in the clerk's office and on the Board of Commissioners website. Next item, consent agenda. Item number 1, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by the International Worship Center for conditional use to open a day school located at 6924 Highway 17 South, map number 354, parcel number 51 in the 1st District. Item number 2, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Roger Holcomb for a variance to subdivide a parcel on an unimproved easement serving more than 3 lots located at 135 Milton Run Road, map number 430, parcel number 38 in the 4th District. Item number 3, consideration to approve an assemblage permit for Albert Jackson for a turkey shoot to be held October 10th, 2014 through January 30th, 2015 at 187 Church Road in Springfield. Item Item number 4, consideration to approve an assemblage permit for Frank Remsick to close the roads in Royal Oak subdivision to through traffic on October 31st, 2014 for Halloween. Item number 5, consideration to release fire fees as submitted by the fire department. That completes the consent agenda. I entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve as read.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried.
Clarify one thing, there was an assemblage permit on there. Are those because we historically have approved those annually? Okay, but the one on the agenda is the first time. Okay.
All right. Item number 1 of old business was removed. Item number 2, consideration to approve the first reading to amend Chapter 75, Section number 1 of the Effingham County Ordinances.
This item was discussed at the board's previous meeting on September 16th, and per the board's direction, the provision requiring single-family homes to connect to water and sewer and reuse infrastructure and reasonably available has been removed from this draft. Minor and major subdivisions are still required to connect when water, sewer, and reuse are still reasonably available. As mentioned previously, our existing ordinance is largely silent after water line extensions, and in this draft, staff added the following language, which requires the developer to extend the water line extension along the entire property frontage. The developer is required to pay all initial cost of installation, including testing, contract prices, and engineering. All new water mains shall be sized at minimum to meet the demand of the development as evidenced by an engineer certificate or a size equal to the existing county main, whichever pipe size is largest. If the county requires a larger pipe size to be installed, the county could participate in the cost, and I paraphrase it just to say participate in the cost of upsizing. This is the first reading. The second reading would be required. Changes can be made between the first and second readings. Staff is still accumulating information to adequately be able to discuss options for water and sewer line extensions in a more comprehensive workshop or planning session. In the absence of that conversation, this language adds enough to provide staff direction in handling extension conversations with developers while not requiring the county to partner in upsizing lines.
Any questions from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the first reading.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the first reading. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve the comprehensive plan update, previously tabled on 9/16.
Yes, sir. George Shaw, zoning administrator. The comprehensive plan we completed and approved in 2009. At the time, we thought we weren't going to have to update it until 2019. DCA has since changed their rules, and we have to do a partial update at this point, at the 5-year point. It is a limited editing of the existing comprehensive plan. I have made the changes I felt were necessary. I got no comments. It was advertised. Got no comments from the public. And you should have a copy of the changes I've made. The significant changes are to the short-term work program. We're matching that to our existing short-term work program. This included a bunch of items that we probably would never get to or won't get to in the near future. I ask your approval.
Any questions from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve order number 1.
Motion and a second to approve alternate number 1, which is to approve this comprehensive plan update. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve the first reading of an amendment to an ordinance to prohibit the use of certain county roads by vehicles whose weight exceeds 12,000 pounds. It was tabled on 9/16, primarily, I think, because Commissioner Mason's absence in that meeting. This was
That's correct. Staff received a request from a citizen that lives, I believe, on this particular road, requesting that we limit heavier vehicles from utilizing this. This is an ash road between the surface treatment on it. We do have an ordinance that limits the weight on certain roads. It was initially approved in 1993 and amended again in 97 and 98 to add additional roads to the list. This would be another amendment to that ordinance should the board choose to do so.
Well, I didn't know anything about this until it was on the agenda. I haven't had any contact with anybody on it. But in my opinion, part of the problem we had with the roads and what we tried to do with some truck ordinance thing that we failed on last year is we can't enforce weight laws. The sheriff's department, there's not anybody to enforce it. So even if we change the ordinance and put a sign up, there can be no enforcement because we can't weigh the vehicles to check the weight of it. So there's really no reason to do this because if you can't enforce it, why do it?
That's correct.
So, in my opinion, it really serves no purpose.
So why was it presented? What was did somebody request it?
Somebody made a request. I told them I would put it on the agenda. I told them the same when I spoke with them that we did not have the ability to enforce it. They wanted it to come before the board, so I did so.
I mean,
And I agree with Commissioner Mason. There's really no point doing it. We can't enforce the ordinance.
you can have a sign that says no through trucks and enforce that. Sheriff's department can enforce that, but they can't enforce the weight law because they don't have a way to weigh it.
That's correct. We don't have certified scales or somebody certified to weigh the vehicle. That's correct.
And local authorities used to be able to do that, but the state changed the laws on it, so it has to be done by the state weight division. So in theory, what would have to happen is sheriff's officer would have to see the truck out there and then call for the DOT to send somebody out there, and they can only hold them for a quote reasonable amount of time. So depending on where the scale person is, so I just don't see a reason to move on this. How many roads do we have on that list now?
I'll be honest,
I know we've been added, but not we, I don't think have been added.
Yeah.
Like originally, it
There's probably
started,
20, 25, I'm guessing. I would have to go count them. I honestly don't.
started with 81.
Oh, it's 81, sorry.
That's number
Yeah.
Number of roads, I believe.
Is 81 on this bill?
85.
There's two.
85 now.
No, 85 plus.
Would it help to put the no through truck sign?
Sheet over here.
Steve,
What's that?
the no through truck sign, or do you think that could possibly help?
Well, it's not, there's nowhere to go, so it's not a through truck road.
And you also have to have an order. We looked at that also. The MUTCD says that you can enforce a no through truck sign if you have a no through truck ordinance. And that's what Commissioner Mason referred to, that we tried and failed a year or so ago to get done. And that being said, the citizen asked if we could do something. I explained that to her too. There was, the only mechanism that we have is weights, and we can't enforce it. So again, I told her I would bring it forward, but I completely agree that it's a new point.
And then the no through truck thing that we were looking at doing, that wouldn't apply to this anyway because they would be exempt if they're living in there. So they're picking up or delivering in that subdivision, basically. So even the no through truck thing wouldn't apply for this.
So should we just repeal this entire ordinance? I mean, not that we do that tonight, but.
Well, we can certainly, it's up to this board. I mean, again, it's not enforceable.
No, because there are roads that are labeled as no through truck traffic, such as Honey Ridge Road. There are places that you need to keep that in place. And no through trucks is the thing to keep. And that's what we were talking about previously, was labeling some more of these roads as no through
So
trucks.
this isn't a no through truck ordinance? Or do you
No, this is a weight.
That's what I mean, I'm talking about this one.
No, this says, to prohibit use whose weight exceeds 12,000 pounds. So,
That's what I mean, this, these 85 roads are really unenforceable part of the way.
That's a good discussion, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
But for tonight's business is whether or not to add this road to this list of roads on this ordinance.
Well, I agree with Mr. Mason, if it can't be enforced, we don't need to create a regulation that can't be enforced, so. Simple.
Delivery truck you can enforce, weights you can't enforce. So,
All right, in your district, would you like to give a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve alternate number 2. Do not approve the amendment to the ordinance.
I'll say.
Motion and a second not to add this. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. And our old business, first item of new business. Consideration to approve an assemblage permit for the Guyton Masonic Lodge for a turkey shoot located at 633 Highway 17 South in Guyton.
Yes, sir. To answer Mr. Kiefer's question, the other two turkey shoots have been on the agenda several years in a row. Mr. Jackson, I think at least 10 years. That's why we put them on the consent agenda. This is a new request for a turkey shoot. So the Masonic Lodge is requesting to hold a turkey shoot at the Camp KT Wallace, which is the Boy Scout camp on 17. There is an existing shooting corral with a berm behind it. It's plenty of place for parking. It's actually a wonderful spot for this kind of activity. Staff recommends approval.
All right. I'd like to ask, is there anyone here in the audience this evening that has anything to say about this for or against? All right. Let the record show no one had anything to say. Any questions from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve order number 1, approve this permit.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve and execute a policy for catastrophic inmate medical insurance.
Good evening. Fiona Charlton, purchasing agent. On September the 16th, 2014, the board approved a bid from Public Risk Underwriters for catastrophic inmate medical insurance. The policy documents have been received and they comply with the accepted bid. The policy premium is $10,208 with a $35,000 deductible and a $250,000 limit of coverage per inmate. The plan period is October the 1st, 2014 through September the 30th, 2015. Funding is approved in the current budget and the documents have been reviewed and approved by the County Attorney. Staff recommends alternative number 1 to approve and execute the renewal policy with Public Risk Underwriters. Any questions?
I think we discussed this previously, like you said. Any other questions? Motion?
Motion to approve alternative 1.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to terminate the grounds maintenance contract with Absolute Quality Service for convenience.
In April, the board awarded a 1-year contract to Absolute Quality Services for grounds maintenance, pesticide, herbicide and fertilizer services. To date, the contractor has performed $5,563 of the contract with $8,537 remaining. In an effort to save funds, staff believe the work can be performed in-house. A tank sprayer and a GPS program would need to be purchased for approximately $1,200 to $1,500, but the labour will be provided by the recreation staff and recommendations on dates and treatments will be provided by the extension agent. Section 1-7 of the contract allows for the contract to be terminated with 7 days written notice, and the contractor will be paid for all acceptable completed work prior to the effective date of termination. Board action is required to terminate the contract for convenience. Therefore, staff recommends alternative number 1, terminating the contract and sending official notice to the contractor. Any questions?
The contractor has been performing everything by the contract, doing the job that we contracted to do.
Yes, sir.
We just simply have changed our mind now and want to do it in-house.
We believe
rather
we can
than
perform it.
honoring the contract.
Yes, sir.
And we have a legal out to get out of the contract.
Yes, sir.
But why? Just, is it a cost measure?
Yeah, when the bids came back at the beginning of the year, the lowest contract was a lot lower than the next one, and a lot lower than what we had paid the previous year. So we looked into saving the funds and trying to do it ourselves, and Clarence Morgan, the Recreation Director, said that his staff would be able to perform it with the help of the extension agent giving us advice as to when and how to.
But this is coming circle right back around where we were, because when I first came on, I was getting just comment after comment about the condition of the grounds and the irrigation systems and all the problems with the fields. So the whole reason we went to contracting this stuff out was to get somebody that was professional to do it, to get the quality of the grasses and the fields up. So we're going right back to where we were. So what has changed that we have staff? Because I remember one of the issues that was discussed about this is actually buying the chemicals, because you had to be licensed to buy certain chemicals. So who's going to do that if we do that in-house?
We do purchase chemicals now, right?
We've had 3 vendors that have done this. This will be the 3rd time, all with varying stages of results. After that experience, considering those 3 contracts, we feel like we can be just as well served by doing this in-house and saving that additional cost using in-house labor. We felt like this was the most efficient use of our funds after going through 3 different iterations with 3 different contractors. Sam Ingram, I spoke to him yesterday. He has a sprayer's license. The chemicals that we're applying now are all over the counter purchased items that do not need sprayers.
Who's saying?
He's our new extension agent.
Okay.
When does their contract expire?
It was just recently renewed.
April to April.
I think it's April to April, yes, for the.
What I'm wondering is, why didn't we do this in April?
Does the new extension agent have a role in it as far as, now that he's there, realizing that he could be a help? Is that part of that? It
Yes.
sounded like
We tried that the first time, and the first answer we got was, I think you'd be better served getting a professional. Then the answer came, I think we could do as good as they're doing, and now the answer's come full circle to, we can help you get you what you need.
And it can't hurt to try it as far as saving the money. If we have an issue, then.
I'm still to save the money. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
this is a full circle, right back to where we were, and it's just going to start over again.
I guess are we truly getting professional service right now? Would you consider it?
The county believes that this is the most efficient use of our funds. And since we have a termination for convenience, we choose to execute that.
I'm good with saving the money, but I think it's going to be something that's going to come back again in another year, by the middle of next year. And I hope I'm wrong.
All right. Somebody give me a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve staff recommendation number 1.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to amend the standard operating procedures of animal control to allow for a no-cost transfer to qualified rescue groups.
I believe that several commissioners were contacted from rescue groups requesting that the county allow for a no-cost adoption to rescue groups. The county currently, by our SOPs, allows for a reduced or half-cost adoption fee for rescue groups. In 2014, a total of 40 animals were adopted by rescue groups at the reduced fee. That grossed about $1,000 from animal transfer fees from the reduced fees. It's important to note that user fees in total do not cover the entire cost of our operation at the Effingham County Animal Control Shelter. Staff believes that perhaps more animals would leave our facility to rescue groups if the fee were further reduced or eliminated, thereby reducing housing, feeding, and care costs while the animals in our care, and possibly saving on the euthanasia expense. In exchange for reducing or eliminating the fee, the county would be losing a portion, albeit a small portion, of the revenue, and there are some fees, some costs that can't be avoided, such as utilities, building maintenance, feeding, etc. Some rescue groups also readopt these animals to good homes for food, and that allows the rescue group to recover a portion of their cost. Therefore, staff recommends further reducing the fee but not eliminating the fee. Staff recommends a fee of $10 and amending the schedule of fees to include the reduced animal adoption fee. By amending the schedule of fees, the fee could be reevaluated each year and more information could be obtained to see if the reduced fee leads to increased rescue transfers and how long-term reductions will affect the overall revenue stream to the Effingham County Animal Control Shelter.
What's our cost in the rabies and 5-point shots for an animal? Well,
I'm not sure that I know that right off the top of my head.
okay,
Rescue animals that we transfer do not receive the rabies and backway.
that's right.
We have 100% participation where they are usually, very quickly respond with, here's the rabies vaccination and here's the sterilization.
What I'm saying, we do save that cost for the rescue group.
That's correct.
Okay.
But you'd also, all the dogs that's euthanized, you'd save that cost. What does it cost to euthanize one?
That's correct.
So you'd be better off to just let them adopt the dogs and get them out of the way because it doesn't cost anything. If you keep them, you got to pay somebody to euthanize them
That's correct, if they're not adopted.
if they're not adopted. So I'd say don't charge anything. If the rescue groups want them, give them to them. I'd get them out of the way and they're not killing them.
I know that Ms. Master contacted me last night, said she was going to be present today, and people are able to speak to agenda items. Did you have something you would like to say to the board?
Well, I mean,
If so, come to the mic and state your name.
my name is Patricia Manzer. I've been involved with rescues and helping the animals out at Effingham Shelter. And in the last couple of years, I've noticed that since that fee did come into effect, there's less and less rescues that are helping us. They're going more towards the shelters that are charging no fee. When a rescue comes in, I mean, they take on a lot of times a sick animal, an old animal, pretty much animals that are really going to be hard to adopt anyway. And to charge them even a small amount, it's almost like saying, hey, will you come and help us, but can you pay me to help me? You know what I mean? It's kind of like a kick in the teeth. To me, it's embarrassing to ask a rescue to lay that kind of money out when they're probably going to lay out thousands of dollars to bring this animal back to full health. And I mean, they do charge an adoption fee, but it comes nowhere close to what many times they've invested. So I really do appreciate if you would please just consider, like Mr. Loper said, just drop it. I mean, it's like, let them go, get them out of there as fast as we can. And there's always, I mean, we're not at a loss in Effingham for unwanted. So please, please consider this. Thank you.
Adam, what do they euthanize a week? 30, 40 dogs and cats every week out there?
I don't know.
They were at one time.
I don't know the exact figures, and that's a touchy one, so I'd hate to give you an incorrect figure. I will say that the saving the cost is both a double-edged sword. Number one, we pay the vet to come every week regardless, whether he's actually euthanized or doing welfare checks. So the only thing we'd actually be saving in euthanasia expense would be the solution.
But it costs you to euthanize one of them, right? I mean, that's
correct. We don't pay per euthanasia, per application any longer. The second part is if a rescue group comes in on day 1 or day 3, actually, because we hold the majority of our dogs for 3 days by state requirement, unless it's an owner turn-in. If a rescue group came in 3 days, obviously the fee, the cost to the county would be minimal. If the animal stays in our care for 14 days, trying to get it adopted and then it's rescued, you've got the additional carrying cost.
Well, your staff recommendation number 2 is basically in line with what Ms. Manager was advocating for, is that correct?
Well, no,
So
not
reduce,
exactly.
so reduce fee.
She's asking to eliminate it.
well, that was order number 1 anyway, so
That's correct.
Yeah, and he was recommending 2, that's what I was asking.
That is correct.
Yes. But I'd say just let them have them. I mean, we get them out from under the shelter, you don't have to euthanize them. They come and give them 3 days, you don't have to do nothing to them.
That's correct.
Would you like to make that as a motion?
Yes, sir. I make the motion to approve order number 1, the board may elect to modify the SOPs and rescue group application to allow for free adoption for qualified rescue groups.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Thank you for taking the time to come. Next item, consideration to approve the 2014 EMPG Performance Partnership Grant Application. Mr. Myers, how are you this evening?
Good evening, just fine. How are you?
Great.
Every year we apply for a performance partnership grant. We do this to take advantage of programs that would provide Effingham with funds to counter the expense of your emergency management program. The 2014 EMPG PPA grant, if accepted, would be distributed at 30 cents per capita or $15,675. Since Effingham is a Tier 4, we would need to match those funds provided. The required match has already been included in the approved 2014 budget, Department 20 under salaries. Therefore, I would like to respectfully request to approve alternative number 1.
Any questions from the board?
Motion to approve alternative 1.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve a contract for the county administrator.
Good evening.
Good evening.
At your request, I have submitted for you a contract for the county administrator and any additional agreements that should be included. And these are in draft form at this point, should there be any more discussion or for your pending approval. In your documents, you should have the draft contract itself. And additionally, the county administrator job description, which was actually your final selections, and what you wanted in that job description was given on December 13th of 2013. Your final draft actually was approved 1/7 of 2014. Any provisions for outside employment is also included, and then additional information on any type of retro or interim pay. I've listed alternatives for you that include a county administrator contract with inclusion of an agreement letter. The agreement letter is based upon what has been on file at the county, and that would be issued with the contract, or you may also take the italicized section of that letter and put it into the contract. It is your choice. It has 2 different options. And additionally, with the alternatives, as I said, you will be approving either the contract to include the agreement letter or agreement being put into the contract, a salary at base with retro pay, or a salary that is commensurated with a formula that looks into experience, also looks into cost of living for the state, and anything in performance. So there are 4 options. My option recommendation is going to be for number 2. And of course, that includes the contract, the agreement letter, and the salary commensurated on experience with any retro pay that you would agree to grant. Within the contract itself, there are red and blue italicized sections that were questioned. Under the duties section on page 1, just so you know, there has been the addition to include a reference into the county administrator classification specification job description. Under compensation, we have a choice to make in that area, and 2 options have been listed. That is in blue. Also under compensation, we have put the vehicle allowance back in. That was something that has been at the discretion of the board. So this is what has been requested here. And then lastly, on page 4, you will see there was a discussion on severance, and that has been put at more of an industry standard, and that's the 6-month severance. And that's under number 9 on page 4. Additionally, this has been submitted to the attorney's office. The attorney's gone through. You have had the draft for review. And now I'd like to know if you have any questions or any additional things you'd like to add.
So if this board wishes to approve alternate number 2, that's all inclusive. The only question is compensation, deciding which of those numbers.
Yes.
Also, there's a couple of things that I thought, I don't know if I discussed it with you, I got it might need a little changing of one, about item number F, where he has the ability to hire with the input from the board, and we wanted to also add the word hire and terminate.
Okay.
That was one thing. One other thing, one small thing like that, I don't know what that was.
They got about hiring in here.
That's right, we're gonna add the word and terminate.
We can add that in under the draft if you put that into any motions you would like to make.
Yeah. I'll hold the other Okay. The other thing was in the draft letter, strike the words with the approval of the board, because basically we're approving that in the letter, so adding the words with the approval of the board makes it like we still have another vote to approve it, but the letter is approving. So I'll strike with the approval of the board. So it doesn't seem like we still need another vote.
Like a redundancy or?
On the draft letter,
Okay.
if you leave the words in there with the approval of the board, it's like we still need to approve it.
Do you want to be notified in any way, shape, or form, or no?
We're approving, if we're approving.
If you approve the letter without it, it just, it goes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's already done.
All right?
So I would remove with the approval of the board.
As long as it's outside of the county and it has no effect on any projects that are done inside this county or anything that's got to be approved by this board.
We're already aware it's already in effect, so.
Yeah.
And then the contract's only for a year, so at that point in time, the board will have an opportunity to look at it again. Those are the two items that I can think of. If I'm missing anything that I've discussed with anybody, let me know. Am I missing anything that you think of it?
Do you want to weigh in on the compensation though, while you're talking?
It was my understanding on here, well, I will say right off the get-go that, I do believe with the fact that he has the experience and the training, education, and the fact that he was able to step into the job and not miss a beat and we've made so much road progress, all those things should be factored in. He shouldn't have to start at just the base salary, that's my opinion.
So the 95,450 would be your vote?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be my vote.
Yeah.
Bart, do you have anything? Yeah.
No, I agree with Commissioner Jones.
I believe that's, yeah. Number 2 with that amount, yeah.
Red?
No, she covered, I was talking about hiring department heads one time. But it's in here, and she put in there, you could also.
It's covered.
So anyway, she's already covered that. That was on my 2 things.
I'm okay.
Good.
Good.
All right. Any other question or discussion? So can I have a motion to include all of that?
I'll make a motion that we approve staff recommendation number 2, with a salary that includes the commensurated amount of experience and performance. And that we make the only 2 changes mentioned where on item F we add and terminated. And under the draft letter, we remove the words with the approval of the board.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Well, now all we gotta do is get this done and sign off on it. And we'll finally have an administrator.
Not called interim.
All right. Next item. Consideration to approve a warranty deed to accept the roads in Castlewood subdivision.
Yes, sir. Castlewood subdivision is a subdivision off of Courthouse Road. It was originally platted in 2004. We've been making efforts to contact developers of various subdivisions to hand over the roads or give the roads to the county. This one luckily is the same developer still in possession of the roads. They took care of the punch list, all the taxes are paid. We have a deed that's been prepared by staff and reviewed by the county attorney, and staff recommends alternative 1, except the limited warranty deed.
Any questions? Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept alternative 1 and take those roads.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Any opposed? Another one down. Next item, consideration to approve a warranty deed to accept the road and final plat for Wildwood subdivision.
Yes, sir. This is a 19-lot subdivision off of Rose Road and Highway 80, going toward the Ogeechee River. This was originally started in probably 2005 or 6. Went to the bank, and now the current owners have gone ahead and finished this subdivision. Plat's been reviewed and approved by staff. Deed has been reviewed and approved by the county attorney. Roads have been inspected. All punch list items are taken care of. Public Works has approved the road condition. Water and sewer are private. It'll be private water system and septic systems. Staff recommends approval. Alternate number 1.
All right. Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept alternative 1, accept the final plat, sign the 4th.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve a resolution to adopt the fiscal year 2014 capital improvement element update.
As part of DCA's rules, we created the capital improvement element update. You approved transmittal of that to DCA. They have reviewed and approved that, and now we must approve the resolution to adopt the capital improvement element. And that's what this is about, that we are adopting what we've already approved. It has been approved by DCA.
Questions? Motion.
Motion to approve alternative number 1.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Alternative number 1. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve addendums to the financial policies.
Good evening.
Amen.
The board has in front of it addendum 2, addendum 3, addendum 4, and addendum 5. Each one of these is specific in nature. Addendum 2 seeks to clarify our policies and procedures regarding those projects that would be GDOT type projects. GDOT itself, within its parameters and guidelines, wants to ensure that we basically go through the selection process of consultants for transportation projects in a certain manner. It requires that we go by what is termed the Brooks Act. That Brooks Act requires that the actual procurement of these contracts, that any contract that is solicited with the estimated value of $75,000 or greater is advertised in a particular manner, and that selection process shall be done on a qualification-based selection. And as such, GDOT also requires this within our current financial policies that we declare that we are following this process and procedure. And as such, the addendum that you have in front of you, as far as the financial policy itself, is to outline that and to declare within our financial policies that we do go by this selection process as far as a qualification-based process. Within this document, it also cites the current federal laws and regulations so that we ensure that we're adhering to that, much like we do with other projects that are over $100,000 where we have to also comply with the Davis-Bacon Act. And that particular act basically says that we review the payrolls and the actual amounts being paid to the individuals within the contract. This is very similar and requires that we have it within our financial policies.
Basically, this is them asking us to acknowledge that we're going to follow the law.
That's correct.
All right?
Addendum number 2, establishment of disbursement parameters and policies.
This would be addendum number 3, correct?
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. That's correct. Addendum number 3. This particular addendum goes back to a request by this board to actually put in minimum controls as far as our disbursements, our check disbursements. We'll go through in this particular addendum, outline minimum controls for the actual equipment that we use, the checks, the printers, the signature, and so forth. We also go through minimum controls within our accounts payable, how we do things, the essence of the outline of the prudent controls within our accounts payable, also within our disbursements of our payroll. I will call your attention to the items where we have an item P, disbursement of routine checks. This board asked that we put in a level of $100,000 to ensure that a board member signed off on anything over $100,000. We did have about 4 items that are consistently over that amount. Those items would be the United Healthcare, the monthly sanitation invoice for Republic, the purchasing card for BB&T, and with that, the individual amounts, so the total disbursement is about $150,000 to $200,000. The individual approvals are there for each individual department or department head, so we have approvals along the way for each one of those items. And then the item for the payroll tax. Those were the 4 items that we found that would be routinely over that, and have put those in here as items that can go ahead and be paid unless this board seems...
as an exclusion to that.
That's correct. We also put, one of the things that I had suggested at this last meeting was that we run a check register, a monthly check register the first week within the month following those disbursements, and that be given to each one of the commissioners so that if there's something that y'all see that we're not aware of, you certainly can alert that to us, and just for prudency as far as y'all knowing exactly who we're dispersing funds to and what amounts.
I'll make that.
In addition to that, we went through the minimum controls within our payroll disbursements. As you know, about 60% of our disbursements are in payroll alone. We went through those protocols with the Human Resource Director, listed those prudent controls within that, and also implemented reporting as far as the reporting to the administrator regarding those disbursements to ensure that there's transparency in each one of those transactions. In addition to that, we also went through our check reconciliation controls and along with our check cancellation guidelines. So this board and those who are handling these processes understand and have those parameters in place.
And it may not be prudent to that P that you were talking about.
Yes, sir.
When we say employee insurance, United Health Care, or sanitation monthly invoice to Republic. Should maybe not be specific to the name, or we may change healthcare providers.
We certainly may, and we can update this, or, you know, we can make it more generic in nature. I wanted to make sure that this board was aware of to whom those disbursements were going.
Maybe employee insurance, currently United Healthcare,
Okay.
or
Yes,
future carrier,
Yes,
so that it doesn't have to. And with the Republic, I mean.
You could just say employee insurance and sanitation.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Solid waste provider.
yes. We can make those changes, certainly.
Well, if not, then if we change for some reason, then all of a sudden it's not compliant.
Yes,
Yeah, even the same thing with personal cars. You're not expecting to change things, but if you do, you'll have to change that.
understand. We can make that.
No reason to get that specific.
Anything else? All right. Agenda number 4.
The next item is our financial policy addendum number 4, and this deals with our surplus property process procedures. We've always had a surplus process. However, this spells it out very clearly for us. The first section is simply the Georgia Code, which involves how we go through these processes. Number 2 goes into the disposal of those items that are items that would not necessarily be reused or would not have any necessary salvage value. And those would be the items that we would simply take and destroy or put in our current landfill. The next item, however, is the personal property as far as public auction. This would be for those items such as cars, equipment, and so forth. And it basically allows us to put out for auction not less than 15 days nor more than 60 days preceding the day of the auction, so that there is notice to the public. And then allows us, of course, to use online or live or silent auctions to be able to disseminate those particular assets. Then within number 4 is our real property for public auction. And of course, this is also by the guidelines of the Georgia Code. And it simply gives the same information as far as real property and allows us to do that by public auction using the same type of outlets to do so. Number 5 goes into our sealed bids and how we're going to go through our sealed bid process and allows the tabulation of those bids and so forth. In number 6, we actually go through and try to give some guidelines as far as the disposal method of that surplus property. Some of the things that we're concerned about in that is making sure that we review where that property came from. In some sort of instances, we used grants or federal funds to secure some of those items. And as such, we need to make sure that we're reviewing those type of things before we necessarily surplus those particular items. We also put within here what it will not do. And that is that, you know, a purchaser won't be given advantage to ensure that, you know, it's not done with staff, to give staff advantage or a particular individual within the community advantage, and that there is no preference necessarily built within the actual system of the surplus. Then we try to go through the terms and the conditions and give some parameters there as far as, you know, we intend to generally sell these items as is with whatever faults are there at the particular time, and to ensure that the public understands that particular piece of what we're purchasing. I think for the most part, it simply gives us the overall guidelines of how we go about requesting your approval to do that, and how we go through the process with the public, so that the public fully understands those process and procedures.
First, let me tell you, I think staff has done a wonderful job on this document as to how to get rid of stuff. My concern has always been we surplus things and there's no accounting for where the money comes from. What happens to it after we surplus it?
There is a document that we do produce each year, which shows what you actually surplused each year and what we actually received. I'm going to work with Adam to try and make sure that that's done. As soon as y'all surplus everything, that you get a quarterly update of that, so that you understand where those funds came from and where they've gone, and perhaps where they've been used.
Question, would it be possible, and this might be too complicated or too simplistic, but would it be possible to assign a tracking number to every item that we surplus? So that we can track that and see where it comes back to? I mean, so that we know that if it was trashed, if it was...
We technically right now, the way I have it set up, at least for our review of finance, is every single item that's surplus, we then go back into that spreadsheet and say it was sold, you know, through this particular individual for this amount of money. Here's the items that are remaining that still have been surplus. As far as a tracking number, you know, I think we could probably, within the documentation of the resolutions, put a tracking number that is incorporated within that spreadsheet so that those are referenced back. And I will tell you that at times it has been difficult to necessarily identify every single one of those, at least over the last 5 or 6 years, because at times the individual item wasn't necessarily described very well, or was missing information as far as the actual serial number and those sort of things. So I think that would actually help with some of that reconciliation process.
Well, just a concern, I mean, money's comes back, I mean, this board, I've seen it 3 or 4 times since I've been in office that we surplus something. Then I ask later what's going on with it. Well, it never got done, or we didn't get any bids, or we just don't know what happened.
We certainly can institute using a tracking number, and we certainly can institute adding that to that spreadsheet. And then just as we give y'all your financial statements, I don't know that we necessarily need to do it on a monthly basis, but we certainly can do it on a quarterly basis, so that by the time you get to the next quarter, and we usually do the surplus on a quarterly basis, by the time you get to the following quarter, you know what has happened with the prior items that have been surplus.
Don't we have a control number assigned to every piece of equipment?
No, sir. That's one of the things that we have tried to implement for years, is actually taking an asset listing each year. We do it primarily for all of our major assets, for instance, our cars. We do it for our buildings because we have to go through that with our insurance and so forth. But that is one of the things that we have lacked over the years, is actually taking a physical inventory of every single item or piece of equipment that we have. We know the roads, we know those sort of things that are serviced through our first vehicle or through Shenandoah, because they're listed on there. We can see that every single year, what's dropped off, what is still there. But
You mean things like computers and various things like that, each one of those don't have a...
Computers do, yes.
computers do.
Like chairs and desks, those sorts of things.
Those where the major dollars are, we have a handle around. Every single individual piece of.
And I may be making something out of nothing, I mean, but is this a concern to our auditors or examiners at any time?
Each year, one of the things that is noted is the fact that to oversee, manage, and complete that on a yearly.
Well, in other words, is that a recommendation from the auditor that every single chair and things like that be accounted for and control number or
It
not?
actually is a state requirement. It is a state requirement that we have a asset listing and that we go through those assets.
I do know in our handbook, in our county commission handbook, that it says, I think it actually states the first month of each year, or I think it says it in that way, that it's our responsibility to audit the asset list.
And let me say it this way, it's not that we don't have any process in place, it's that we don't have a process for every single item. We do for our cars, we do for our major equipment, we do have for our property, and we do have for our computer.
When I took office, they didn't have it for the cars.
Well,
That was something I advocated for.
let me just say that I'm aware that there's a lot of things that needed to be done, and I know that we've made great strides in getting there. I would just simply like to keep that on the horizon
Yes, sir.
for something else to shoot for so that we can be compliant with all of the requirements.
I know this past year, one of the things that we did, staff, purchasing, finance, I believe Adam was in that meeting, talks, I'm not sure if you were there or not, but we all met and went through the asset listings. We all went through what was on the insurance. I know at least on 2 occasions, I believe I've actually gone through and matched our assets to our insurance to ensure what was on there and what was not on there. So there are processes in place, but not for every item.
For the sake of argument right now for this financial policy, addendum number 4,
Yes, sir.
if we simply add another item to this and state that on a quarterly basis, the report would be given to the board
Certain.
of all items surplus and their disposition or where we're at, would that be acceptable?
Yes, sir. We certainly can do
I
that.
think that'd be a good idea.
All right. Number 5.
Yes, sir. The addendum number 5 basically is a clarification of our acquisition of services. In the past, one of the sentences that we had in here was simply the procurement of services shall be subject to the same approvals and requirements that are applicable in the purchase of supplies and capital goods as set forth in the policy. That particular phrase lent to some discussion as to exactly which paragraphs it was referring to. So in this particular instance, we simply listed out the actual parameters in which these services are to adhere to, and that is the 500 to 1,500 as far as the list of 3 verbal quotes, the 1,500 to 20,000, at least 3 written quotes, and over the 20,000. If you recall, the board had decreased the overall amount that the administrator was able to do in the past, and we felt like this was even further clarification as to the particular processes that should be followed within the acquisition of services. So it is basically clarification of those points so that we're consistently handling the procurement, not only just in general goods and services and goods, but also in our acquisition of services.
Sure you don't want to bring up a number 6.
And, you know, like any document that we have here, this is a living document. We have an awful lot of people who do various business for the county and with the county, and so we're just simply trying to clarify those pieces.
All right, well, could I get a motion if there's any other questions?
I was going to ask, in the motion, is there anything, if we go with the staff recommendation, that based on the comments that were made, are there any changes or additions that need to be clarified?
Well, alternative was 1, 2, and 3, amend the documents. I would like to have a
specifics.
And the changing of that item P,
So that those items are basically generic in
more
nature
generic.
for those items, and then also to the quarterly, adding I to the surplus policy regarding giving a quarterly report as to the disposition of.
Let's say this is a motion, so let's get it as simple as possible. That's what I was trying to get to. Let's get the motion as simple as possible. We want to approve it with which changes?
You're going to be approving it with changes to item P under addendum 3, in which disbursements would routinely be issued above $100,000 and are approved for disbursement R, employee health insurance payments.
That's what
Okay, you read it out, and if we agree, we'll say that, okay, because we can't write all that way. It's not simple. What is it?
Payment of the monthly sanitation invoice, payment of the purchasing card invoice, and payment of the bi-weekly payroll tax payment.
Make item number P generic rather than specific.
Item P
I think it's the way it's
generic
said.
in the motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Item P generic.
Okay.
Item P on the third.
And then you would add an item I to your surplus addendum policy.
Addendum number 4.
Make it quarterly?
Quarterly reporting of surplus items.
Okay.
We're adding I to what?
Policy number 4.
Okay, the only changes that we're saying that we need is item P needs to be addressed as reporting generic,
That's correct.
and add item I to number 4, which is a quarterly reporting of surplus,
Correct.
with approval of the addendums as listed otherwise.
And as discussed. That was, I think, in the motion would be.
As discussed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not much.
I have a motion and a
You did.
I can say it. Can you say it again?
Didn't mean that.
Okay. We're making the motion that we approve staff recommendation with the changes as discussed of adding to policy number 4I, which is the quarterly reporting of surplus, and adding P, making that generic.
And that would be under amendment number 3.
I have a motion on the floor.
Oh, and the second.
And a second. Any other discussion, question? All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. All right, next item, consideration to declare 4 parcels containing approximately 403.31 acres of land at Atlas Sand as surplus and accept sealed bids for sale. Mr. Thomas, you want to explain that?
Yes, sir. Staff received a request, interest, I would say, in the acquisition of this particular property. This property's been surplus, I believe, twice since 2005. It's been advertised for bids twice. I do believe we received 1 bid in the past that was not acceptable to the particular time. However, as y'all are aware, we are currently in the midst of a project now to get at least a reclamation plan on that particular piece of property, which would quantify the amount of work required to get those banks sloped up so we can actually get out of state mining permit. And I apologize, I'm trying to read now the email from Mr. Pittman to see where he's at. I had asked him earlier today for a timeline of that. I think they're getting close, but they're still not completely here. So at this point, it would probably be staff recommendation to table this request until such time that we get the information back from the contract we're currently working on, so that we would have that to be able to compare to see what those numbers look like. Now, surplus of the property also is a 2-step. Once it's surplus, it would then have to be advertised for bid per the policy that y'all just approved. And then when those bids came back, you don't have to take them if you don't want to. So,
And it was my understanding that's the purpose for doing this, so that we could go ahead and see what the offers were out there, if any, so that when we got this other information from the study that's being done right now, we would have all the information so that we could make a valid.
And I only want to, I had a couple of talks, as I mentioned to you earlier, but I looked at tabling because I just want to get that information first. What's the timeline if we do surplus to get those bids?
Typically 90 days.
what we have, Phil, what we advertised over this, what was it, 30 days? Or?
30 days.
It's approximately 30 days, but we have all the dust out right now, the property that y'all surplus that, and those bids are due 2 weeks from now. David's questions.
There's questions.
It's about 30 days, let me say it that way. By the time we put this document together, actually advertise it and get the bids, it'll take 30, maybe 45 days to actually get them.
We won't be able to move on any surplus quote until we can have the numbers though from an engineering firm either. I mean, we've got that information. I don't know at least anybody that may be interested pushing to make us make a decision either.
Right, well, I would say you could go ahead and see what the offers are, have those in your hand, you don't have to accept them, and get your other stuff back and then weigh it out.
Is there a time frame that we have to make a move on whatever quotes or bids we get?
Most likely, I mean,
That's what I mean.
I don't think it hasn't changed that much, but the last time this was done, the bids came back extremely low. So unless there's a new player that's interested in it out there.
Unless there's some big push, I'd rather take first. But, I mean, that's what we can do.
I think if there's interest in seeing what the market is on it, why not? It's not like you have to do anything with it, but at least you know what that is.
Well, the reason was because we actually got a phone call from someone asking if we would consider selling the property. And you don't know what interest is out there, what number.
Correct, and there was a person that I know is interested. There could be 100 others, there could be none. That may be the only person interested.
Back at that time, apparently wasn't a whole lot, but things have changed a bit. So
Well,
it's just worth doing, but I wouldn't want to move on it until all the other stuff comes in. Maybe some waste.
What's the time frame of getting the engineer to study that?
He said they have received the survey and they sent it back with comments. As soon as those comments are addressed, it'll take them 2 weeks. So 2 weeks plus whatever it takes the surveyor to turn around, I would say 3 to 4 weeks.
So we can actually vote tonight to surplus this in 30 days from now, start the advertising process.
But just because you're putting it out as surplus doesn't mean you have to sell it as surplus, right?
Right, but if we go ahead and take the bid and we open the bid, we have to accept or reject at that point if we don't have that information.
But I don't think there's a time that you have to accept it within.
You probably have that information back by then.
I thought there was a time frame we have to accept or reject.
Do you know answer that question?
I believe the statute says that there's a time frame from the time that the bids come in that you have to either accept or reject, but I don't believe that there is a time frame from surplusing the property to putting it out for bids. If you were to surplus it, then you can wait 30 days.
Is this step only to surplus tonight and not put out the bid?
Tonight's on the surplus, that's correct. However,
But this is part of the discussion whether to do it or not. I mean, if there's a time limit, whether we have to accept or reject, if we don't have our information, we won't be able to make a decision.
But we could say tonight that we're going to surplus it and ask staff to 30 days from now, start advertising it for surplus.
Well, just because we surplus it, we may not tell them 30 days. We don't have to put that in the motion, right?
Correct.
You're saying we can just put it in surplus, but that doesn't mean we have to bid it out at all. We
But I
never.
think to eliminate forest concern, we need to put a time frame because we don't want to surplus it next week and get bids 30 days from now.
We need to just not bid it out with bid yet.
That's right. That's why I'm
So we could
saying
say we're going to surplus it, but not bid it yet.
wait 30 days.
If you say not bid it yet, it could be 30 days, it could be 90 days, it could be 2
Right,
years.
you do it with no, just say we will surplus it, and then once we get our numbers, or when you know they're coming, then make arrangements to do the advertising. Do that.
yeah, I mean, like I said, the property's been surplus twice before, because we continue to pay taxes, or not taxes, but insurance and maintain the property, we felt like it's probably prudent to do it again. Because we've taken action since then, as if we have, basically.
Jack Auburn from Clio. Toss, is this part of the, we'll still have 200 acres possibly to develop for recreation? Is this your thinking on this? Isn't it 700 acres in this plot? No.
No, it's about 300 acres, about 150 of that is the lake itself.
The lake, okay.
Correct, there's a roughly 40-acre conservation area.
Is it still a permit on that to pull sand out of it?
There's a permit for reclamation only. There is a state mining permit, but it doesn't allow us to actively market sand out. It's only for the reclamation, meaning the sloping of the banks, establishing it back.
So they'd have to ask for another permit to pull sand out of it?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody couldn't buy it and open a sand mine back up.
Back up, okay. Thank you.
Well, I don't know that's 100% true, because I think the property still is on industrial, which means the only requirement they really come to us for is.
Well, I thought it was, it's pretty well mined out.
It's an industrial. I don't know that. That's part of the hydrographic survey. You know, there's always been talk that it's mined out, but I mean, in all honesty, they were mining this property. And in fact, we leased it to them after we purchased it because they had jobs going on. I don't know that it is mined out.
So, makes sense to get information.
Which is one of the questions the potential purchaser asked, quite frankly. But I can't tell them that that'd be between them and the state.
That's up to them to do their due diligence. That's not up to us.
It is such a mess, I can't imagine.
Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Shaw told me mine is a conditional use, so regardless of what is on, they would still have to come before this board. That's correct, for approval.
It may already have that permission, I don't know how we ever change it.
I'll see. You're going to speak, did you say it may already have that condition on it? You're not.
That's what he said, yes. It may already have that condition placed on it from the previous owner, so it would have to be removed, I guess, by this board if you did not want that to be.
Those are things we need to know.
And it may not have been required to have that permission. I think the older mines did not have, were not conditional, it was just because it does.
Additionally, if it is surplus and this board decides to put it out for sale, there's a question, and if you look in your packet, I'm trying to find what page it is. There's a little map that shows the outline of this boundary, and it's the only way I know to really explain this to you. There's a just shy of 40 acres, 36.84, I believe, acre parcel in the northwest corner of this site. And it's, of course, it's not labeled, but the top left of your page, you'll see a little almost square cut out top of the lake. That was placed in a conservation easement, and it was purchased using state green space funds. And the condition of those covenants, I think we can sell this property, but I believe with the approval of the state to do so, it may be more trouble than it's worth, quite frankly. And they could only use it for the uses of what's listed in that conservation easement.
I would recommend based on just that we table this until we know that information.
We may not be able to sell that part.
Well, that part, yeah, I mean, you can certainly sell the rest. And the only question will be,
Separated by part?
yes. And there's an easement that comes out to Highway 80. So I mean, the property has legal access. It's a separate parcel. It would probably be better just to withhold that from the sale. I mean, let me say it that way. You have to pursue the permission of the state to do it. That's a condition. What that process is, I don't know. Whether that's the easy process or not.
I went and did find the book that originally came with that. And
Yep. We have to all do.
I'm sorry. There was original documents when this was done, and I had remembered seeing something on it, so I went digging through financial records and found a book that describes that entire process, and I believe it has a section in there that talks about what has to be done if it's used for any other purpose than what we have. I just have not had a chance to go through it all.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if we sold this, we would have to sell it with a covenant on it, understanding that they would have to buy a covenant, which means they can't really do anything with it. Therefore, it's probably easier for us to just keep
That section.
that particular part. Now, we can decide that later, that's separate from surplusing. What we've asked to do is surplus all of it, and then we'll decide which part we want to sell in the future.
Okay.
Does surplusing, it doesn't stop any other work. I mean, if we decide to keep it, declaring it a surplus.
We've done it twice already. Yeah.
If we've done it twice already, why does it need to do it again?
There's an interest. Somebody's showing interest.
No, why is it surplus? Why is it still not in surplus? It got removed from surplus?
I don't know if we have to.
That's what I'm asking.
I think we felt it more prudent because since we've surplused it, we continue to pay property insurance and use the property like it was ours. It certainly gives the appearance that it's our property, not a surplus piece of property.
I think once it's been declared surplus, unless you
That's what I was saying.
undeclare it, I think you can still consider it surplus, but.
I know the school board, if we declare something surplus, it was surplus until you.
Again, like I said, I don't know that we have to, and if the attorney's office tell us we don't, it's probably, again, we felt it better to just ask again because of the history, again, the last time, 2008.
For a public appearance.
It's been a little bit of time, so.
Well, plus the fact it's been so long, do we want to entertain somebody making us an offer without putting it out there to the public saying, here's this land, everybody that wants to give us an offer.
The bid process would do that.
Correct.
The bid process would do that.
So we can make a motion not to declare surplus, just accept sealed bids. Or does that still need to include? We can, I mean.
It doesn't hurt to surplus it again, that it's redundant, but it doesn't. I still say.
Yeah.
To redeclare it surplus and to accept sealed bids.
The only thing I would add to that, are you ready? Is there any discussion?
Have at it.
I recommend alternative 1 to declare the property as surplus and accept sealed bids for its dispossession, but I want to delay it until we know that our study is within 2 weeks of completion. That way we know we got our stuff first before it's put out there.
You want to delay the bid process
Until we know our numbers are coming back from the engineering firm, or the reclamation costs will be.
keep your vote? Yes.
That's your motion.
That's my motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. If there's no other questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Next item, consideration to approve change order number 1 with Carroll and Carroll Incorporated.
Did you skip one?
I skipped one. 12. I'm trying to get us out of here, folks. I'm trying. Consideration to cancel a professional services agreement for consulting services for the Board of Elections.
January 21st, the board approved a professional service agreement for consulting services with the Board of Elections. If y'all may recall, at that time, we were without a director. I'm trying to think what exact title is, the elections director. They were then trying to advertise for a new one. We were in the throes of elections, and the board, both this board and the Board of Elections, felt it prudent to retain the services of someone to guide us through that process. The Board of Elections, in concert with their new director, has recently met with their consultant and amongst themselves determined that that service is no longer needed. They all mutually agree that the staff that they have now can adequately navigate the process. So you have a letter in your books there from the current consultant, I guess, requesting that these services be terminated. This is nothing the staff is asking for directly. We were asked to do so, so we're bringing it to y'all. As such, staff does recommend that you approve the termination of that agreement of the transmittal of this letter to Ms. Whitehead, based on the recommendation of the Board of Elections and their current staff, and I have spoken with their chair.
Everybody's in agreement?
The board may terminate this contract for any purpose at any time on 30 days notice. So basically, we're given 30 days notice.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions? Motion?
Make a motion we approve on staff alternative number 1.
Motion is second. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Now, consideration to approve change order number 1 with Carol and Carol on the Blue Jay and McCall Road services.
On February 18, 2014, the board approved a contract with Carroll and Carroll for Blue Jay and McCall. That project has been completed with the exception of some of the driveways. The contract itself called for all driveways to be paved basically back to the right-of-way line, if you will, and there was a little bit different language, but in effect that for the transition, because this had about 6 inches of asphalt that went over the top of it in total. And there were 3 different types of driveways located along there. There was just a dirt drive, there were paved drives with asphalt, and there were concrete drives. As this process progressed, some of the people that had existing concrete driveways expressed some reservations about us putting asphalt over the top of their concrete drive. They felt like they had placed a concrete drive in, they wanted it to remain concrete. As such, there is a change order of price. There is an addition. What I broke it down for you, had we done these particular driveways with the asphalt, it would require 146 tons at the unit price, which is $10,658. The change order was for 26,250. So the net of that is 15,592. In other words, we saved 10,658 by not putting the asphalt down. So the net increase of the contract is 15,592. Basically, the contract and the actual final pay request has come in since I wrote this, but the contract was for just over $3 million, $3,080,000. The last bill we had was $2,006,000 in the change you see out there. The only item unbilled was striping. They were still trying to get the quantities from the striping contractor to bill us. The contract price of that was $65,400. In other words, we should end up $389,827 under contract value. The reason for that largely is we stopped short of the intersection that we're going to take out of Blue Jay and McCall where the curb's going to go in. We didn't put a full section through there. It's one of the largest places that we save money. And the other one is the leveling that we had done. I intentionally ran higher than what it anticipated because the road was in such bad condition. So the combination of all that, we're again right at $390,000 under contract. So with this 15,592 change order, it'd still be $375,000 under the contract, which I'll approve. With that, I am recommending that we do approve this contract.
So in the contract that Carol had, it wasn't in there to pave these driveways?
Yes.
To the right of way?
It was with asphalt, that is correct.
All right, it was in the contract to do that?
That's correct.
So the 10,006 is, they haven't yet paid with asphalt?
That's correct.
So that's going to come back. All right. So, but I'm confused because the driveway from the right of way to the road belongs to the county. So it's not the homeowner's driveway on the right of way.
Mm-hmm.
They did that. So why would we not just cut the concrete out like it's typical and run asphalt up to a concrete joint?
I agree that it certainly would have been our prerogative to do so had we chosen to. Typically, when I bid them in the past, I did it on Zitschreiber Bunny Kessel. I try to put that concrete. I mean, it's certainly something that we could do. I mean, it's definitely a cheaper alternative. It was something that I've tried to do in the past. If it's something the board would choose not to do, we can certainly do so.
In other words, are you doing it for the reason of you're replacing what was there, so it has the same appearance and same, you know?
That was my reasoning for doing so. Now, I don't disagree with Commissioner Mason. It's ours. We can certainly do that if we want to.
It's our easement, but it's their property, is that right?
It's our right.
It's our right.
It's fee simple ours.
They paid the money to pay that.
I understand. That's what I was.
But I agree, Commissioner Mason, at some point you're going from concrete to asphalt, whether it's here or there, you know.
Yeah, I don't disagree. He's 100% correct. It's ours. We can
I mean,
certainly do
'cause
that.
I've had a couple of people out there that have the concrete driveways, the really nice houses right there. They've asked me about this, and I told them that what I expected was it was going to get cut and paved up to that saw cut, and they were fine with that. So, I mean, I don't see the reason we need to spend an extra $16,000 on it. I mean, because the typical construction, road construction is, when it was mostly state road stuff, you know, the 4-inch concrete driveway is not going to pass the muster for most places anyway on spec anyway. So the asphalt going back is why typically they go back to asphalt, because of neat structure.
And they made, when DOT did in 119 and 30, they put all the concrete back to concrete. I mean, there's,
So the property owners just want what they have.
I'm not saying every single one, like, you know,
Just the ones that we tore out.
there were some that came up and expressed that concern.
Well, and
I'm not
it's
saying every
because
one.
when we paved the road, there was 5-6 inches of asphalt out there, and they had a joint that drove up, had to climb up 5 or 6 inches to come on the road. So I know a lot of those people were there, and they actually was asking me about it, and I said, well, I know they were going to tie it in, and what I expected was a saw cut and paved up to that saw cut joint. They were okay with that. So this is, I'm a bit.
You're saying they want a smooth transition, you're saying
Exactly.
they want a smooth
They're bumps.
transition for both.
And like Phil said, it doesn't, if you're going to go from concrete to asphalt at some point, it's either do you do it at the right of way or at the edge of the street.
That's in my district. I didn't get a single call.
I know
Yeah, just
the Stokes, Earl Stokes and them.
But right this minute, is it a smooth transition? Has that part been fixed? It's gotta be fixed either way.
It's got to be fixed, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Regardless of which product you're using, it's gotta be fixed.
Well, we fixed a lot of them.
It's already in the contract with the quantities to do it in asphalt, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
But didn't we fix some? Because I got a thank you note from one lady.
Those was either a dirt or a case, yes, or
Those
no.
are the other transitions.
I did, I'm going to take the track. I did have one call and was asked if we were going to go back to concrete. And I think, Toss, I called you or emailed, and you said the plan was to go back with what was there. I think that contacted you.
So, the ones that are concrete drive, we have done nothing there.
So if there was a plan to go back with what was there, then why wasn't that in the bid? Why is this a change order?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm just saying that the homeowner did call. I did have.
Yeah.
And remember the mailbox, it was actually extended so she could make her turn by the mailbox.
That was on Zitro. Now, Zitro, it was bid and the bid to do concrete, back concrete, asphalt, dirt. It was actually included in that contract.
This one.
It was not, that's correct.
I see.
So on that one, what I told you was correct, it's different roads. On that particular road, it was bid that way from the
But this
beginning.
change order still makes our total expenditures on this project some $200 and something thousand under what this board approved.
375, yes, sir. On what the board approved.
I don't even put it back concrete, still covered what we did.
Is there somebody who wants to speak on this?
Somebody got something to say?
Is there someone here? No?
Speak now. No.
If the bid's still less than,
All right, can I have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve change order.
I'll second.
Alternative one.
Motion and a second to approve change order number 1. All in favor? Any opposed? Let the record so show. All right. Next item, number 14 that was added. Stephanie, you want to speak or you want me to? Mike then, where we can.
You have this as in your additional materials folder. This is an annual thing that's done by the Victim Witness Department. It's a statewide awareness. You guys approve this every year. It is a proclamation for domestic violence awareness.
All right, the proclamation should have been in the additional materials.
Agree.
Probably at the back.
Second, front.
It requires each of your signatures, so I need to ask.
All right, anybody got a question? Comment? I understand this is something that we've done several years. Proclaiming October 2014 as Effingham County Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Any questions, conversation? May I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the proclamation.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the proclamation. All in favor? Aye. None opposed? So carried.
And it may have been on there, but,
We all have to
they
sign.
usually have a little, ceremony or something. Are they doing that this year?
They have a little
They put a light.
camera
Do they do
Yes.
that?
I'll find out and right. They usually do that, usually like a week or so after we.
Well, this has a place for everybody's signatures. You've got the original.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's the last item of new business. The time now is 20 minutes of 7.
I think that's a record.
So what I'm saying is now it's left up to staff reports as to when we get done.
I'll have you out an hour and a half.
What you got, Mr. Dawson?
You have your normal updates from the sheriff's office. I'll let you read those at your leisure. There's a letter in here from Mr. Scribner with he's the CEO, CFO, excuse me, of the Effingham County Hospital concerning a recent visit they had from HUD. In the letter, I asked that information be passed on to y'all. I'm doing so. You have what I call a letter, a piece of an email regarding donations to the Melanoma Research Alliance, and it has a story behind it. If you all want to take a look at that, it's in honor of someone's memory, basically. Street lights, from time to time, it comes up where people ask about putting street lights within subdivisions for the county's ownership and maintenance thereof. We have somewhat discussed that in here, and I've done so with some of y'all independently. There's a memo in here regarding that, which is basically outlines the different choices that Georgia Power has and that we have available to us to do it. Some of the issues associated with that that have come up in the past. It just gives a little bit of history on it. There is behind that an ordinance to establish the Hunter's Chase subdivision streetlight maintenance district. To my knowledge, that is the only one this board has ever approved was Hunter's Chase. So you can take a look at that particular resolution and see how it would work and how it operates and functions.
How is that being paid?
According to this on the water bills. Now, I spoke to Joanne, and we've never collected this fee, so I don't know that it ever happened.
I bet it.
Well, let me say, the resolution was adopted. I don't think we've ever actually started maintaining those lights. The deal on Hunter's Chase was that the developer was going to install everything. He paid for all the upfront costs, and we wouldn't start maintaining them until the place was full, is what I thought I'd read somewhere, but I don't see it. It said something about the subdivision plat was recorded. However, we've never started maintaining them. One of the issues is just that, if it's on the front end, even the developer puts all the infrastructure in, and we then take over the bill for that, and there's no one living in there, there's no one to bill. So we
never did take over payments. I was worried that we just didn't collect any money, but that we had actually somehow been paying the
We've
bill.
not been paying it or collecting money on it. Now, the was, the resolution, I'm sorry, was adopted, we went back and found that in minutes.
We probably need to go back and clean that one up.
That did happen. And I stopped short of giving you all the minutes of the meetings. If y'all want those, I'll be glad to do so. If you want to hear what the conversation was amongst the board at that time.
No.
But if y'all want, you can just read this. If you have any further questions, we can discuss it.
This, I'll see where this goes. This, I'll blow this up. There's the residents over there for some help with the streetlights. Streetlights, the infrastructure there, it's just getting turned on.
I will say off the top of my head, because it's another huge problem that we could end up picking up. I feel like we might be able to help construction-wise, some people on how they could take care of that themselves. But off the top of my head, for the most part, I believe they need to take responsibility for their subdivisions and set up HOAs.
I encourage that.
And I'd be more than happy, we can't give legal advice, but I'd be more than happy to try to help come up with some kind of parameters to give to the people that says, here's how you establish, you know, you can see your attorney or whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's really a responsibility that the county as a whole probably doesn't need to try to take on.
The water bill's probably,
And I'm trying to figure out how to be helpful, but we get so many of that type of thing, but, there are many subdivisions in which the homeowners are paying that, so then we'd be doing it for some and not doing it for others.
well, we don't
Our
have,
neighborhood, it's built through the water. That's,
Yeah.
we don't have water in all subdivisions, so that presents an issue. You can go to tax bills. There was legislation passed or introduced a year or two ago to remove anything other than tax levies on the tax bills, which create a separate bill. Things of manual entry, there's some issues there also.
There's lots of ways to address it, there's tons of ways.
And the biggest problem with water is that if no one lives there, we're not collecting any money, but yet we're still paying for that particular infrastructure. So anyhow, y'all can read that at your leisure and let me know if there's any further questions. You have here a monthly report for the month of September for fire. Lots of good information in there that y'all can see what they've been up to, the amount of calls ran, training hours, so on and so forth. And the last one is, as y'all are all aware, you removed from the agenda tonight the issue dealing with the hospital MOU. You have here in your possession a copy of the latest version of the MOU. We got this back Friday, I believe is correct. It has the actual MOU, and in the back is a larger spreadsheet looking thing with a sort of a Gantt chart, if you will, of a timeline to try to help understand the timing of the transitions and the payments and how we receive monies and how this thing needs a transition. This is, my understanding was the hospital authority was going to have this on their board meeting tonight, this agreement, so we would know tomorrow their take on this. It's my understanding from staff that they've talked about it with the board members, you know, individually to some degree, and didn't see a whole lot of pushback. So what I would like is for if y'all have an opportunity to look at this, see if there's any issues that you have, which we can go ahead and address before it goes back on the agenda. And if I don't have any by next week, or actually Thursday's our deadline, so by middle of next week, that's right, Thursday. We can move forward with the next agenda. If not, we can put it off to the next one. Just, you know, I'd rather have the comments done. Because when we get it, we then have to send it back to them. They send it to their attorney. We get it, we send it to our attorney. It's a couple-day process, even if everybody turns around and meets with them.
And you and Joanne have both had a chance to review what we're looking at now or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I would say, I believe from staff perspective, as far as the timing of the MOU and the wording and so forth, I believe we've all, from staff level, come to a fairly consensual agreement that we're fine where it goes.
Have you looked at changes also?
I haven't had a chance to review it yet, I just got it yesterday, but from what Toss tells me, it doesn't differ very much from the last round of changes that we sent. So I'll be able to look at it tomorrow.
Okay, so if you have any concerns, you'll let us know.
I will.
Correct. And for all those reasons, we want to make sure the documents, what y'all want to be before we put it back on the agenda the next time. We just, both staffs of each entity want to make sure that we get it done right this time.
Sounds good.
Things that aren't on your list that came up, and you want to bring up, Nellie?
You can go ahead.
We continue to have issues with Nellie Road and trucks that turn on that. As y'all are aware, this board is, and GP both have taken actions to purchase signs and install them, trying to guide people as best we can. Unfortunately, their GPS is still telling them to go down that road, and they listen to their GPS over the sign that says, no trucks, dead end, do not enter. and a sign immediately before Deli pointing this the other way. And it causes issues when they get to the end. Kerry Thompson actually called me today and spoke about this also. It's an issue to them. They're trying on their side to try to address it through correspondence and letters and memos to their drivers and people that come to the facility. And I think it's actually people going to like Macintosh is where I think it comes up. And on the older GPSs, it actually shows that road going all the way through to Platte Macintosh. I have personally submitted requests to the larger map manufacturers. I believe there's 2 or 3 of them, almost 2 years ago now, to change this. I will be perfectly honest, I have not followed up to see if they actually did so. She was trying to do some of these things, but there's also issues, even if the map manufacturers update their maps for the people that use static maps, it doesn't help, until they download a new map. If you're on Google or something, there's an internet connection, that's fine, but so until they replace their GPS or at least the maps in them, which is oftentimes more expensive than the GPS itself, it doesn't do that particular user any good. So I'll let y'all know if there's anything you want us to do, we'll certainly do it. We've added signs, the email.
Can those trucks be cited for doing down there with that signage? Just curious.
I don't think so.
What's the sign say?
I don't recall.
I think it says no trucks.
I think it says no trucks.
Is it dead end?
And dead end. It says no trucks, dead end is what it says.
So, no, the answer is no, because the no truck thing, we didn't do that.
Because we didn't approve the ordinance part. That's my recollection. The MUTCD says if you're going to cite people, you have to have an ordinance that goes along with it. And we never approved the ordinance.
What they're getting ready to do, what they're going to do is put a gate up at the end of the road, and a truck goes down there. They're going to have to get the sheriff out there and stop traffic for them to back out.
Back half a mile out, because there's one individual that has a field.
Yeah, and no, I understand their issue. I mean, it's a real issue for them.
He knows.
I just, from offices, I don't know what to do. We put no trucks, we put signs and signs, and people still continue to do it. The person that emailed Commissioner Kiefer actually said, I know it's a tough thing, I don't know how to address it other than putting larger signs. And we can certainly try that, double indicating it with larger signs, but my personal opinion is we have enough signage that you should understand you don't need to go down there.
Isn't there a dead end sign up there?
Yes, sir.
When people don't update their GPS, it's a mess.
Well,
And if a truck is willing to go down the road and make no dead end,
yes.
it's truck.
Call somebody to help them get that.
Yeah. So again, if there's anything y'all want us to do, please let us
Put
know.
them on mic here.
The only other thing I tried to follow up today too, I was a little, I did a little late, I have to admit, on the status of the study on 80. And what Cynthia basically said is she's finalizing the study, and she says, advised that we most likely doing sign-up. I think she's most likely doing sign-up rates, but it sounds like they just want to change signage. But I don't know the answer to that yet. I'll find out as soon as she gets it to me. But they are working, they're getting to the end of that report. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any other staff?
Only thing I wanted to update y'all on, we told you we would give you progress reports on the audit. The auditor did begin this last week with our courts and our agencies. We have submitted all of the requested documents to our auditor, the trial balance, GL, check registers. They are in the process of setting the field work days. And so right now, we should be on time for our November 18th deadline.
We're waiting on them at this point for the field days?
Yes.
But they're on their own schedule with the calendar.
They have already gone into the courts, they have already taken that data, they are reviewing that at their office at this point. They have all of our data that was requested at this point, and they are doing their due diligence as far as planning and those sort of things. So I anticipate they will be in here probably this following week to actually do field days within the admin office.
Good. You got something?
I did have one other thing. We recently, our consultant met with the rec board. He has a beginnings of a draft study coming out. I would like to schedule a time with y'all that you think is convenient to have a public workshop. So if you could look at your calendar and let me know. I know he has a lot of unavailability, but we may just have to do it anyhow.
Do you want to do it prior to a meeting?
We can do that, it's been suggested. I just, that's up to y'all. I don't know how much time we want to give the public. My only concern is if you do it that way, it's probably time limited because of the meeting, but that's completely up to y'all.
It may.
If we need to have it, if we need to start, I don't know how much time.
Well, or too early. I mean, you may need to do a public meeting a little later.
A lot of people that work at 3 o'clock.
Yeah. So it may need to be done at like 7 like we did the last one, but. So if y'all could do that again, we'd like to have, to go ahead and get that part scheduled so we can have some public input, go ahead and wrap this up so we can get moving on that.
Well, if you want public comment, then the thing to do would be to schedule it during a meeting that's not a planning board meeting, and just do it at 7 o'clock hour.
Do a discussion session at 7.
And we can do that be a month, but roughly from.
People can come.
Yeah.
It'll be a month from now.
Yes, sir. If that's what y'all want to do, that's what we'll do. We'll get back and tell him that.
It may take all the time we want.
Okay. We are progressing on our ISO too. I met with, what's the name, Friday. We met Friday and then we had another meeting with Joanna, Clint, and I had them earlier today trying to hash out some pieces. So we're getting the short rows of that. We're getting down to the data part now. We actually have something to present back to y'all to act upon. So we hope to have that next meeting or so. Now I'm done.
Lots of progress.
Reggie, got anything?
No, sir.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we got the road.
Yes, sir.
I know it's been at least 2-3 months.
It's
that
out
I've
the
been
bid.
talking about this. The striping and
It's out the
signage.
bid.
Oh, we got it.
It's out the bid.
Out
Do
bid.
you remember those bids you did, Phil? Off the top of my head.
We need to put something there because this is exactly where 3 people died.
Well, that's a little bit down, but yes, sir.
No, it's exactly. One south, it's right over the hill.
It's a little bit down, yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes. So that passing zone indicated
It's out the
area
bid.
is where that
Can't
road
speed it
was.
up anymore, that's out the bid, unless y'all want to do it some
We
other
can
way.
put
didn't
no passing zone signs up, we can do something. But this needs to get moved on.
It's out, I can't speed it up anymore.
But
Is it a 30-day bid? Is that?
I've been talking about this for 3 months.
I understand.
All right, so along with that, the striping and signs on that road, but the erosion on that road, the Baker.
Mhm.
Back in the last winter, let's let them wait till spring to get the planting done.
He asked me
The
to do,
erosion out there right now is atrocious.
I can't make him do anything. I mean, I've had this
We need to
conversation,
contract that with somebody else, and do we still have money holding on it?
$160,000.
How much?
$160,000.
There you go.
We're still holding retainers because they have not done what they were supposed to do. He asked me about.
I guess it would be the Swigoffer Creek branch that runs across there, where the big house is on Old Augusta.
Yes.
Also, could you send them an email that says, the retainage is going to be used to pay for the contractor to do the work if they don't come by a certain period?
This is beyond, that
I've told him
erosion
multiple times, I'm not paying him until that's done.
Put in an email that the retainage is going to be used to pay another contractor if he doesn't come within, say, 36.
And the thing is, I spoke to him 3 weeks ago now.
Put that out there, bid, right? If the contract allows for us to do that.
I said that's a legal thing to do.
That's non-performance.
If it's our standard contract, then it allows for us to do that.
Yes.
I would think it would have a provision for non-performance.
That's not-
And just say that we're calling that to this point. And if you need the attorney to do it, have the attorney to do it.
Yes, send me the contract and I'll look into what our options
So
are.
move it forward. And who is the contract?
Baker.
Because, and say this could shed light on you having future opportunities to do work with the county.
That's the worst spot, is that Swigoffer Creek crossing. Because, I mean, it's filled with ditch completely full of dirt, and it's washing, the phone lines hanging in the air up there last week. Somebody went and did a little work to it, I don't know who did that, but there was no stabilization done, so it was blown out again. And all down through that project, there's erosion issues on those ditches. And it's just, it keeps getting compounded. And so now we're getting into, well, grass won't grow again. So for a year, we've been dealing with this thing, so we need to do something to move forward with that.
Something else?
we'll stop with that.
You good? Forrest, you got anything else? Yes, sir.
Not good.
One thing I've been asked to, the commission approved the change order with Reed Warren on the jail, if y'all will remember back for,
It was last month, on the 16th. On the 16th, last month.
yeah,
With some negotiation number.
and allowed Adam to keep negotiating. Well, the number was 4,000. Now it's minus 21,000. So with y'all's permission, I'll go ahead and sign this change order.
To save more money?
Yeah, please do. Okay. Adam felt like that I needed to ask him before I signed it, but I said, you save more money, we're good.
Can't complain about that.
All right. Anything else? No other staff? No commissioners? Executive session?
Make a motion to go to executive session to discuss personnel property and student litigation.
I'll second.
All in favor? Any opposed? So adjourned. All right. I need a motion to consideration to approve the September 16, 2014 executive session minutes.
I make the motion that we approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Any opposed?
Should we abstain for?
So, yeah.
And Commissioner Peter not really?
Yep, got it.
4, 3. Still have a quorum.
Oh, yeah. You got a quorum, I had to abstain because I wasn't.
He wasn't here.
Quorum is 4 present.
All right.
We have a
You're good.
Make a motion to
Any other business? I'll entertain another special motion.
Make a motion to approve. I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye. I said it
All
right.
opposed? So adjourned.